This episode of Ash of Life is brought to you by our special patron, Chris Lewis. Thank you so much for supporting us. And hey, by the way, dude, we got a present for you. Your shirt arrived, and I just need to get off my lazy ass and get it to you. So, that's that.
It's all yours, Loki.
Anyways, on with the show. Howdy ho, partner. How you doing?
Howdy.
Howdy.
Well, welcome to Vice of Life, this very special royalty-free Maple Leaf Rag, free music, ragtime piano, 1902, free background music for your videos edition of the podcast.
Best kind of music.
Well, this is a show where we talk about stuff, and this week we're going to be talking about the Old West, and possibly the most well-known character of the Old West, some might say, Wild Bill Hickok.
Wild Bill.
Yes, sir. And I'm Logan, by the way. Josh is sitting across from me. How you doing?
All right, good.
And joining us remotely is Eloy again. How are you?
Doing rather well. Well.
Good. I actually think Eloy's gonna be quiet there. All right. Never mind. We're good. Actually, there's problems with the way we record, and I thought Eloy was gonna be quieter than he should based on how the music was playing, but it's fine, dude. No problem.
All right.
Talking about something that doesn't matter. Okay. Well, good, Eloy. I'm glad you're okay. What'd you do this week?
What did I do this week? I was thinking about this the last couple of days. I'm like, wow, I'm going to have something to talk about because I did something this week. But what it is, I don't fucking remember anymore.
Well, why'd you have to go into work before this?
Yeah.
I had to go and do monthly inventories. So that was a blast.
I thought it was going to be like, hey, we're opening back up.
I know.
So this is how it's going to work out, but it had nothing to do with that?
No, they took care of all that. Because I worked this morning from like 5 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And then I went home and tried to sleep. Didn't work out. And I had to come back at 6. Left at about 7:15. So that was great.
So you're running on fumes?
I don't know. I think if I just stay up much longer than I should, I eventually just get like a second wind that lasts 1 or 2 hours. So
okay.
Yeah.
Coming along right about now. So we're doing fine.
All right. I'm kind of like that where, like, especially if I'm going to start a new job or something and I can't sleep the night before and I run on like 4 hours of sleep or 3 or whatever, and I'm like, oh, it's going to be a disaster. And I don't know if it's like the nervous energy or what it is, but like it's never as bad as I think it's going to be.
Yeah.
But then that night, it all catches up with you, like, and you get that like heavy-eyed, just like, like exhausted, like the SpongeBob where his eyes like fall out of his head and they're all gray and shit. Like,
oh, I thought you were gonna say like where he's doing the tape thing. That's what I thought you were gonna talk about. But
oh yeah, that too. Yeah, like pulling down the blinds or whatever,
up
curtains.
Like
I
don't know.
Taping your eyes open.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Well, is that what you did? You got a new
job? Well, it's sort of related in a way. I was trying to. There's a few things, but I think I talked about it like a while back, maybe. But I rediscovered my little muscle stimulator pad things. Oh, yeah. It's I don't know. Maybe you guys have seen it, but it's like little sticky pads that you put on your muscles, and then you turn it on, and it kind of like shocks the muscle and stimulates them. And I did it because I was feeling especially sore, but it kind of wakes you up. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, you don't realize how much like heaviness you carry in your body, you know. And when you do that and it like shocks you. Well, the other thing too is I was putting it on my like neck, like up by my skull. And it was like straightening my head out. Like I didn't realize it kind of like leans to one side. When I was shocking the muscle, it made them like straighten out. And I was like, oh, whoa, this is weird. Like my head's never like that, you know?
Yeah.
But,
We knew a kid in high school. His wouldn't like tilt to the left or the right. It would tilt like to the side. Like the top of his head would tilt to the side. And he'd always walk around like, sup? Like he was doing he was perpetually doing the dude.
yeah.
Yeah, I know you.
And I don't know. He was one of the kids that was like really sporty and stuff. So it was like his identity. So in a way,
Yeah.
I don't know. But maybe he needed that, you know, straighten out his
Probably,
neck.
yeah.
Yeah. Wonder what he's doing. Last I heard about him, last I heard from him, I should say, he was kind of a fuckboy, but.
Yeah.
No joke.
Sense.
I think if we're talking about the same guy, he may or may not have come to my work the other day.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say he may or may not have died or something.
Yeah.
Oh no.
He's probably.
I caught a glimpse of him, and I'm like, I think that's the dude I went to school with. I don't know.
Did he look well? You know, healthy and shit.
He looked fine. Yeah. So, a little husky, you know.
Oh. He hasn't
Or
been hitting the weights.
huskier, I should say.
Oh.
He was always a skinny dude, but
Yeah.
still the neck to the side, so it's probably him.
I gotta say, I was watching those videos of you guys, like the Blue Crew and all that, like the Hump Olympics and shit from, what was like high school, junior high, or whenever?
Older than it should have been, probably.
I don't know.
That was sophomore year.
Okay, yeah. But you, Eloy, you were skinny as hell. Like I literally didn't recognize you. It was kind of crazy. I didn't realize how far you've come in a way, like with the muscles and shit.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'm serious. I literally didn't know it was you. Like,
Yeah, I was like, I think at that point I was like 115 pounds, and I was bald as can be.
yeah. Mustache hasn't changed a whole lot, but
Nope, I can't grow any more facial hair now than I could then.
yeah.
I still am waiting to hear back from my hair person about whether or not the beard growth formula stuff actually works, but
Oh yeah.
I think she's forgotten.
Wait, you asked?
Yeah, like 6 or 7 months ago. I don't know. She never got back to me.
Ryan just started doing something like that. Some beard growth oil or supplement or something. We'll have to see if it's working out.
He's our guinea pig.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I love it.
We still got to do the Rogaine thing, like try it on our faces.
Oh, yeah.
Forgot about that.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll wait and see with whatever Ryan's using goes
Yeah.
to switch up our product.
I feel like the Rogaine is dangerous.
I'm sure it is.
But,
Probably will like bleach our skin or something
End up
weird.
with chemical burns.
That's a sort of a beard, you know, if that part of your face is red and the rest isn't, you know.
True. You know who else had red hair?
Who?
Wild Bill Hickok.
Wild Bill Hickok. Well, do we want to jump into it then? I don't really.
Oh yeah, what was your?
I don't really have a lot to say. I was just gonna say, I went to the drive-through the other day.
Which one?
Taco Bell.
Oh,
sadly,
No, Ryan got it delivered the other night. So
Well, I was wanting to go to the local-ish franchise chain of Rancheritos, but the line is always a fuck.
yeah.
So I was just like, I'll just get the shittier Mexican food, Mexican adjacent food, and then, but anyways, you guys ever been in line where the person ahead of you pays for your meal, and then you're like it
I
passes
haven't.
on? I fucking hate
Never
it.
personally.
I hate it, man,
Yeah.
because I'm only there. I'm ordering one thing, it comes out to $8
Right.
or whatever, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'll pay for the guy behind me, and it's like, oh, thank you. And then I feel like I need to pay for the person behind me, but then they're ordering like 2 or 3 meals, and it's like, fuck, I
That's
didn't
not
want to pay
fair.
for this.
That's not fair.
So
I just feel like that would be cool, like nice to be not cool, but nice to be in a situation like that where you could pay like $8 for someone's meal. But I know with my luck, it's gonna be like a car full of 8 people, big ass SUV,
Yeah.
$60.
Well, I almost got away with it because the guy's like, "Oh, they paid for your meal," and I'm like, "Oh, really?" And then I was like, "Is there anybody near me, like behind me?" And then somebody pulled up, and I'm like, "Fuck!" Yeah, I was like, "Can I pay for theirs?" And he's like, "Yeah, just one moment." And then they were taking a while to order, and I'm like, "Oh shit!" The whole time, like, "Fuck, man, fuck, what am I getting myself into?" Then it was like 2 meals, so it was like twice what I paid, so like $16. But I was still like, "Damn it," you know?
Yeah.
Dude, especially right now, because I'm assuming it's pretty similar to my work. Just everybody has all their families at home, so they're just loading up every time they go out.
Yeah.
True.
I don't know, man. Maybe that'll start changing. I'm curious what this shift to red to orange starting today, as you'll hear this, is going to look like. But time will tell. But you know who has orange hair? Wild Bill Hickok. Woo! So, do you guys? When did you guys first hear about Wild Bill?
Well, I actually got kind of confused because I just watched Green Mile not too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
Like based on the Stephen King book. And there's a character named Wild Bill in that movie, so I was like, oh, maybe that's the same guy, but it's not. It's just another Wild Bill, apparently. It's played by Sam Rockwell, classic character actor. He's come up a couple times on here, I think.
Huh. Yeah, I've never seen the. Is it the Green Mile? It's by Stephen King. I was gonna say, is it that that football movie? And it's certainly not if it's by Stephen King. Huh?
Oh yeah. What is that one? Last.
I would love to see Stephen King make a sports movie.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's 8 Mile, very different, but
Lots of miles.
yeah. That's kind of it, man. I don't feel like I'm sure I've heard about him and stuff, but I never attached the name specifically. Once we started reading, though, I was like, "Oh, okay,
Yeah,
he's the guy."
I'm pretty sure I probably heard Wild Bill at some point too, but in recent memory, when he came back into my consciousness, there was a podcast that did an interview about somebody that was writing a book about him. I didn't look back into it. I kept saying I was going to listen to it, but I didn't re-listen to it. But so what I remember from that is them talking about how he fought a bear. So we'll get to that.
Yeah,
that was pretty exciting. And then how he took fashion very seriously, I suppose you could say.
Oh yeah,
for his time, I suppose. But I don't know. Maybe that's a lie. Maybe that's what they. Maybe I'm disagreeing with what I'm seeing. He's wearing bear skins and shit. I don't know. Maybe that was stylish back then. Who knows?
I was gonna say we don't know.
It was status, man. Especially when you've killed a bear, you're like literally showing it off. You know,
taking it with you everywhere.
But so I heard about him. He came back into my consciousness probably about a few months ago. But what about you, Eloy? When did you first hear about Wild Bill?
The moniker Wild Bill's always. It just, like, when we talked about talking about him this week, it just came, like, it hit me. I just always knew. I think it's because my grandpa was so into Westerns, and, like, he'd watched documentaries, all this stuff, movies about all these old outlaws. So I think it's just something that's been stuck with me since I was a kid.
That's a good point,
I never
man.
took, like,
cool.
I never knew much about him.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. This guy has been represented in a bunch of movies. I was actually going to watch some of these movies and describe them on the podcast, but again, I didn't. But I'm gonna something on Wikipedia will tell me what he's been in before.
Ton of stuff. The movie, the series Deadwood on HBO.
Oh yeah,
He popped up on there. I saw that.
Yeah, I figured he must have been.
yeah. Deadwood is kind of a big part of his life, we'll say.
Yeah.
He was in a silent film in the 1923 called Wild Bill Hickok. The Plainsman is about him. Little Big Man. The White Buffalo. Wild Bill stars Jeff Bridges.
Yeah. Buddy. Hey, man, I'm Wild Bill, man.
Dude.
There's television, The Adventures of Wild Bill Hickok, Death Valley Days, The Great Adventure, Deadwood, Young Riders. So, he's been portrayed quite often, but so he's kind of a famous lad, we'll say.
I saw Jeff Bridges' dad, Lloyd Bridges, also played him in a show called The Great Adventure in 1964. So that's random.
Yeah.
Both the Bridges
I think
boys.
that's actually a really good movie, if it's what
Really?
I'm thinking of. Yeah, it's
never-
like in the foggy parts of my memory, but I remember liking it a lot, I think. Nice. That's the one I saw. That was one of the ones I saw with my dad. Eloy's talking about how his grandpa was watching Westerns. That was my dad, because my dad is your grandpa's age. So they share a common interest. Except my dad wasn't a cool greaser like yours, apparently. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Westerns are so... I have a hole in my... Like, I just never was a big, like, Westerns person. My family was never... So it's just never... Like, people, like, love John Wayne and all this shit, and I never have seen anything with him or any of it. Like, the movie Gun is... Or not the movie, the game Gun. That's as close as I've ever gotten to Western material.
I don't even know if I know what that game is. Gun?
Yeah.
Is it like a campfire game or something?
Oh my god.
It was
I
on
know that-
Xbox. It's like a Wild West. You ride around on a horse and rob people and shit.
Yeah, I've never heard of it.
I mean, and when did that come out? Like 2007 or some shit? So
Yeah, I was gonna say if it wasn't on like fucking PlayStation 2, I'd say you should play it, Logan. But
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
yeah,
I see. I remember the
2005.
artwork of it. Yeah.
It was fun, but that's as I mean, that was, I played it in like high school or something because I didn't even have an Xbox for a long time. So I have a huge hole when it comes to Western material. I just do. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm either. I think Eloy would agree. I don't think either of us are like experts or anything, but I don't know. Maybe it was tangentially in the background, and I always enjoyed it quite a bit. But
That's cool.
I was never like, oh, Wild Bill Hickok. Let me tell you about him. It's-
But Westerns were around for you guys somewhat. Like, you have some connection. Like,
My dad didn't have any cacti around the house.
Oh, man.
Did your grandpa, Eloy? I feel like he probably did. Some cacti.
No, he probably didn't care too much about that.
What about cowboy
He
hats?
mainly
There you go.
He mainly just liked watching the movies.
What about boots?
Maybe boots.
See, I actually...
But that's the extent.
Okay.
That's it, yeah. I had some moccasins as a kid, so I was kind of on the other side,
Were they like the... I don't know. Are moccasins just the ones that are like low, or can
I think
moccasins
so.
be like the tall boots and stuff too? You know what I'm saying?
They probably could be. They might have another name. I know what you're talking about, though.
Long moccasins.
Sadly, those became Uggs with time.
Yes.
But, but yeah, I know what you're talking about, like the actual like leather with sheep wool or whatever they're made of.
Yeah. I don't know. Anyways, Wild Bill Hickok. We're getting down.
Yeah.
So this was a how do they describe it here? I find it funny because Wikipedia is like, he was a folk hero of the old American West, known for his work across the frontier as a drover, wagon master, soldier, spy, scout, lawman, gunfighter, gambler, showman, and actor. It's like, wow, this guy did everything.
Yeah.
And then you get down to it, and I don't, he did a lot of stuff, but it makes it seem like he was doing everything. But I feel like he had one kind of life throughout all of this. But
It's true.
Yeah.
anyway, James Butler Hickok was born May 27th, 1837, to Alonzo and Peggy. What was it? Polly.
Yeah. Alonzo. I just see William.
Oh, it is William Alonzo. I picked out the
William
Alonzo
Alonzo,
because
yeah.
it's a better
I like
name
that.
than William.
Yeah.
Fuck these Christian names.
That's fun.
But the first little interesting bit I have here is apparently his father was like a really staunch abolitionist and
Yeah.
basically operated a underground railroad station from their house.
Yeah.
And I didn't pick up on that before, but that's pretty crazy, man.
That's cool. That surprised me because, like, when I was reading about all this, it just said he was like involved in the Civil War, and I was like, oh boy, like,
Yeah.
where's this going? And then I was like, oh, okay, he's actually he was part of the Union. Like, that's way later on, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, it just
so that is
seems like
pretty
he
cool.
got his belief or moral system, whatever, from an early age, just from his dad.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm almost more interested in that, just that part of his life more than anything else. because I wonder how that was operating like an underground railroad station, you know?
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure you'd get pretty fucked over if you got caught, you know? I'm trying to draw comparisons between, like, those who, like, hid Jews in you know, Nazi Germany.
I was drawing that connection, too.
But I don't know, like, what's appropriate, what's not, because I am not an historian, you know?
Not either.
Anyways.
I was going to say fucking Tarantino should have done something deeper with that. Like, I know he did Django Unchained, and that's, like, a lot of that stuff, but I guess I kind of thought Hateful Eight would be more like that in a way, like, explore that stuff more, but...
There's very little of that in there, as far as, like, racial overtones go, I think, from what I remember of Hateful Eight.
Yeah.
Like, they obviously bring up Samuel L. Jackson's black, but it's not
I skipped over that movie, man.
I liked it.
I think there's, like, a racist character or something, but...
Yeah, I watched the first, like, 20 minutes, and they just kept throwing around the N-word, like, unnecessarily, and I was like, we already did this, man. Like, Django is a great movie. I don't know why you're... I don't know, but I'll give it another watch. I've heard it's pretty good, honestly.
You basically have to just be able to sit and watch characters be characters for 3 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
But I did start rolling my eyes when it's not... Is it the wrestler that comes up? Channing Tatum. That's it.
Oh, yeah?
When he comes up, he comes in eventually into the movie, and I kind of was like, what? And then he won me over, so...
Oh, all right.
That was the only part of the movie where I was like, oh, God.
Yeah.
He wasn't bad. He wasn't bad.
Huh. Maybe you sold me now. I don't know. That sounds interesting.
He's like more than halfway through the movie. He like finally makes a first appearance, but and that whole movie takes place in one little house. So it's great, you know,
which does seem pretty cool. But you'd think maybe they were, having people shacked up under the floorboards or something. But I guess not.
You really didn't watch the movie, did you?
I didn't. Oh, do they?
I'm just gonna say you might be closer than you think.
Okay, so maybe they do touch on it. I don't know. I'll watch it.
Yeah. All right. You catch my drift. I just want to stamp this moment in time where if Josh watches it and comes back and he's like, "Wow, I really nailed it." You know, I want to just let's remember to have you watch it and check back in. Is all I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah, but you get what I'm going for, Eloy. You get what I'm saying.
I see. Okay, I got you.
Right. You know, anyways, I'm lingering on it too much, and I'm giving it away in doing so. Anyways, all right. Wild Bill Hickok. So his dad was an abolitionist. That's great. He was the fourth of 6 children. At a very young age, he gravitated towards guns and shooting them. And I don't know, man. I know in today's society, it's kind of like you see a young person holding a gun. Even who's probably more pro-gun than maybe Eloy. I don't know. What are your guys' gun stances? Let's talk about your stances on guns.
Well, you go first, Eloy. I always jump in. All right,
are we actually going to have this conversation right now?
I just am curious because, like, when I see a little kid holding a gun, I'm kind of like, ew. Yeah. But then I think back to these kinds of times, and I'm like, I mean, I guess, I don't know.
God, they were working in the coal mines when they were like 9, so it's kind of different.
Yeah, I'm saying these kids nowadays are pussies.
Yeah. But it was out of necessity, and it's just very different.
For their food.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I did Cub Scouts and all that, and we had like the target practice with pellet guns and shit, and I loved it, man. I was pretty into that stuff for a while. And now I'm having this memory of, I think it was at Lagoon, the amusement park or whatever you would call it here in Utah. Like, they have like this Old West section where people always get the photo shoot done and all that.
Yeah.
And they had this little saloon area where you could like shoot down the cans and shit. And I loved it. I've always like enjoyed shooting and everything. But there was a time I went shooting with some old coworkers. And I took my brother, and at the time he was 14, 15 or something, and had never shot a gun or anything. And this was like a shotgun, you know, and it was really heavy, and like they didn't expect it to be so heavy, and it was like swinging around and like pointing at us and being like, "Whoa!" And we're like, "Whoa, whoa!" Like fucking calm down, like do not point that at us. I know it's heavy and you feel awkward, but it scared the shit out of me because that could have been bad, like really fast.
I was your brother before. That's kind of where my my hesitation with like children's learning how to mess with guns is because I did the same thing. I went with scouts.
Yeah.
And they were doing the shotguns. We were doing clay pigeon shooting, and I was doing the same thing. They were yelling at me. They're like, "We're gonna send you home if you fucking turn around with that one more time."
Yeah, because they're like, "Is this okay?" And you're like, "Whoa, fuck!" Like, turn around. God damn. Yeah.
We'll say this. It's stuck in my mind, and now I know.
Yeah.
Downrange is the only way to be.
Fair.
I feel like I'm gonna cut you off. Did I cut you off?
Oh no.
Okay.
Oh yeah,
But I don't know. Shooting guns is a lot of fun, man, and I am so conflicted about it because my natural reaction when I see kids nowadays like learning to shoot a pistol or whatever, I'm like, oh, what the fuck? Like, I don't know if I'd be doing that to my 7-year-old son or whatever, but I don't know, man.
But maybe it's better to start out earlier because you wouldn't be that 15-year-old swinging around not knowing what they're doing, like, because you would have already learned all that stuff and kind of like eased in.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Yeah, you sold me. Okay, I'm pro-gun, man. Second Amendment. I'm going to be marching on Capitol Hill next week.
There should be a limit on purchasing, though, and especially stockpiling.
Yeah, exactly. I agree with that stuff, but, you know.
You don't need 5 of the same gun, like, times 10 guns of all, you know what I mean? Like, you have 50 guns for no reason, and, like, because that's never just a hobby. They're always like preparing for something, even if it's hypothetical. Like, it's always scary. So
yeah. I wonder if there's like some medical study that could be done that was like this amount of gun is where you start. It's like it's kind of like the questionable mark of what becomes like a fascination crossing over into like psychotic behavior. You see what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. What if there's a specific kind of range of numbers that could scientifically be pinpointed. But anyway, Eloy, I know your dad was really big into hunting and stuff. So I'm curious what your relationship growing up with guns was.
Yeah, we'd go out shooting and then we'd always go hunting every year, whether we camped or actually went on the hike to shoot. So it was just kind of a normal thing to me. And then by the time me and my brothers got to the age where we could get our hunting license and all that, we each went on a single hunt, I believe, and decided it just wasn't for us. But yeah, I still have fun going to like the range. And at one point we took like an old TV and my mom's old Barbies and fucking shot it with shotguns. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's fun.
We do some real hoodlum redneck shit, I guess. But
do you still do that?
Yeah.
I mean, I guess that was a while ago, but I've been to the range much more recently than I've done shit like that.
Well,
we should go do something like that when we can.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun. I mean, see, I definitely never went hunting or anything like that, and part of me wishes I had or will or whatever, but then it's like, did you ever have to interact with animals after shooting them, basically?
I never personally shot one.
Okay.
I think I shot near one, but I couldn't pull the trigger. I chickened out.
Yeah. So I think I would love that part, but then like the after effects, I would back out. So I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's not fair.
Out of the canyons and all that.
Like I had a friend that had gone hunting with his dad, and he talked about like cutting open the gut bag and the smell and all this, and I was just like, oh, I don't know about that. Like,
I think the worst part for me would be sitting around for hours just waiting.
True.
In the same spot and trying to be like talking like this.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to scare. And then somebody's like, you shut the fuck up. You scared him away. But anyways.
So I feel like I feel that way about fishing sometimes with my dad. Or like I enjoy it and stuff, but I feel like all of those things are better if you are the person leading the other people. Like I never want to be the son doing that, but I would love to be the dad like taking the son because that's a totally different dynamic. Like I don't know.
That is a funny relationship between that, yeah. Because I did like just. For me personally, I know like playing baseball with my dad or like playing catch or whatever was cool, but it was like I don't really care. But then now that's like all I want to do with my sons. Like, let's go play catch, man.
You want to instill into them, like, yeah, but you don't want to be instilled into. Like it's a weird thing.
That's funny. But Wild Bill, he liked guns, as a kid, and you might think he has dark hair, but apparently he has red hair, like we said. So,
that's what they say.
Those are just the basic, like, upbringing things that I have for him. If you guys have anything you want to...
the notes I have fall pretty much in line with that.
Yeah.
All right.
It says he was an excellent marksman, so he was a good shot. Like, he wasn't just playing around. Like, he was skilled, as from a young age. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they had a lot of time on their hands. That's what I always think, like, I'm thinking, I've lived these many years on this earth, and man, I feel like I've done so much, but nothing at all. And I just think, like, we're so much more busy than they were back then.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It's like, man, how did they live 40 years just shooting the shit and then going on these fucking raids and then being like, yeah, I'm good for another week.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know.
But at age 18, Hickok gets into a little tussle. I don't know if you guys want to switch off between storytelling or not, but he's friends with this kid. I forget his name. Charles Hudson.
Yeah.
And I think they're working together. They're doing construction on some shit. I don't know, but Charles is a little asshole and is making fun of James Hickok, and he has it. And I think this is going to be a common thread throughout his life, where you talk shit, you get shot, kind of thing.
Yeah.
With Mr. Hickok, but he didn't shoot Charles this time. They just fought. They fell into a canal. Hickok was like, he got up eventually, then other people were yelling, oh shit, like Charles is dead. And he's like, oh shit. And he jumps up and he grabs a horse and he rides into the sunset. That's kind of how the story goes. And what I love about all these Old West stories is that you kind of get the general idea of what's happening in any given story, but the details are so cliche or questionable that it's like what really happened?
Especially with Hickok here, like every source I had was like a different version of the story or different accounts, like Bill's, what he claimed versus what the public saw and everything. It's wild.
Yeah.
Well, even all the autobiographies, or whatever, like a lot of them were pretty fabricated. Even his name was changed up a bunch of times throughout his life. And it is funny, like, just how loose, like, record keeping was at this time. Like,
I don't know if it's like the Western states. Like, I don't know if during this time you could go to like a New York fucking banker and be like, this is exactly what happened during his life, and we've cross-referenced and we know the exact story, or if it's just this general time period, the people that were doing the record keeping were just kind of like, we're better than the people in the Middle Ages, I guess. So, well,
like when he joins I think it's the union or something, some shit he's up to, like, it seems like people could just kind of say, like, that's my name, and they would just kind of take it down, and then, like, that's part of the record. Yeah. And then you kind of have to go back and then, like, follow all the steps and go, like, oh, well, that must be him because there's this missing time period, and we have this other guy with the same last name but spelled slightly differently. Like, It would be such a pain to like piece all that together, like to make a story, you know?
Yeah. That's why I think being a historian would be fucking just... Part of me loves the idea of just focusing on one person, like, or one subject for so long and just trying to crack the code of like what actually happened. But God, I can see that getting mind numbing really fast, being like, just fucking use the same name, you know?
I know.
But so he thinks he's killed Charles Hudson. He rides off into the sunset and he goes to the wonderful Kansas Territory and joins this group of fighters called the Jayhawkers.
Yeah.
Which I love and also hate the name, but what they did was good, I guess. What the Jayhawkers were, they were basically, at some point in time, I guess, Kansas it basically got to choose, the people living there got to choose whether it was a free state or a slave state.
Yeah.
And so a bunch of people moved in from other states and territories in there to try and influence what it was. And then there was a bunch of conflicts, armed conflicts, and this is called the Bleeding Kansas period, apparently.
Yeah.
And the Jayhawkers fought on the side of, you guessed it, free state.
Freedom.
Yeah, it made you...
I thought you froze for a second. I was like, oh shit.
Yeah, they fought on for the free state. So so they're the good guys, even though they were doing guerrilla warfare and shit. Which
did you happen to get who was leading this particular band of activists?
Jim Lane,
General Jim Lane.
Yeah. Do you guys have anything on him? I didn't do anything.
I don't.
I didn't go too much into a deep dive on him. No, just a fun fact.
Oh, it just that he was the leader. Okay, I thought you said I thought you meant you had a fun fact about Jim Lane. Like,
oh no.
Okay.
he'll come back up later.
Yeah. While Hickok is a Jayhawker, by the way, he meets Buffalo Bill, which is the other actual Bill that I know I've heard of before. Buffalo Bill. That's a much more common name, I think, for at least in my sphere of influence.
Hickok
Buffalo
is
Bill.
18, and Buffalo Bill, then William Cody is 12. So that's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I mean, what were you doing at 12? Were you fighting for freedom?
No. Singing Linkin Park in my bedroom. Yeah. And
I was probably playing a video game where I was fighting for freedom or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
He's probably wearing like a puka shell necklace and spiking my hair, man. Yeah.
Fuck, man. That time in my life is a blur, man. I don't even...
Yeah, I could have... Who knows, but...
I don't know. They only live to like 40, so, they're 12. It's like cat years,
True.
Where their 12 years is like our 26 or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But,
12-year-old William Cody was... a scout 2 years later for the U.S. Army.
In the Utah War.
Ooh,
the Mormon War, some might say. I forget the details of the Utah War, but the Mormons were being dumb.
Makes sense.
I don't think so. I don't know exactly what it was. But it was between the Mormons. And it's so funny to think of Mormons as... think of modern-day Mormons like
in a war.
Like militant.
Yeah, it's just funny. Wow. That's a fun little mental exercise, I guess. But
that's fun. Very sweaty. Do you think they were wearing the magic underwear back then?
Yeah.
Probably. Right?
Maybe. I don't know. It's a good question. When did the garments come up?
Yeah, I don't know.
Mormon history. We'll do a deep dive on that later.
Yeah.
Throughout his life, Hickok had several nicknames. It was... one of them was Duck Bill.
Yeah, I love that because it's so like the origin of Wild Bill. Because he's kind of a goofy-looking guy, somewhat. I mean, I actually think he's kind of a good-looking guy, but I can see how it's kind of goofy. He has like a long, kind of protruding nose and like sort of protruding lips, kind of pouty lips. And so, he got made fun of. They called him Duck Bill.
Yeah. And he didn't care for that much, as we'll learn. But he grew a mustache to try and cover those like protruding lips and kind of fill in the space there so that you couldn't quite call him that. Also, just a slight bit of racism here. I think he was also known as Shanghai Bill.
Yeah.
Because he was tall and slender, and I don't know. I don't know, man. It's questionable. I don't know if I'd say.
Yeah, I don't even know. Like, I guess that's a thing. Like,
Yeah,
Asians are tall and skinny. I don't necessarily.
the ones in the United States at that time, I guess.
Yeah, it's okay.
But it's just fucking weird. But I'm just going down this whole, like, you were saying how he had different names throughout. They were Hickok, Hitchcock
at one point.
There we go. Yeah, Hitchcock.
Yep.
So, anyways. So after he does the Jayhawker stuff with the 12-year-old Buffalo Bill William Cody, he basically moves to Kansas. He's starting to establish himself there. He gets an estate. I don't know if you can say an estate, but he owns land.
Yeah.
He's elected constable, and he joins the Pony Express, or the parent company, or a subsidiary company of the Pony Express, Russell, Majors, and Waddell.
Yeah.
And what he's doing for them is he's basically just being a teamster. He's driving trucks and wagons and shit from place to place. But one day he comes across a cinnamon bear. I didn't realize that was a thing. You guys?
Me either. I heard that in the biography I was watching, and I'm like, pardon me?
The little gummy things?
I honestly never knew cinnamon bear was a thing, but apparently a cinnamon bear is a highly variable color morph and a subspecies of the American black bear. So apparently it's a thing, these documentaries aren't lying. But anyway, the cinnamon bear was blocking the road with its two cubs, and what I read, again, it's kind of like fuzzy on the details as to whether or not you should actually believe it, but basically Hickok is like, go ahead, shoo, and I have a hard time believing, even in that time they're just like, hey, get up out of here, fuck, go on, get.
to a bear, yeah.
Yeah, a bear with its cubs, nonetheless,
Yeah.
And then one of it's like, he just goes up to the bear and shoots it in the skull, and I'm like, I don't know if anybody is that brave to just go up to a mama bear and be like,
Yeah. Peace, bitch.
But apparently it ricocheted off its skull, and it's like, oh, really, bitch? And then it got all mad, and it started, like, attacking him, but he apparently shoots its paw so it doesn't hurt him that way. The bear grabs his arm. He slashes its throat with a Bowie knife. But what is known is that he's really fucked up afterwards, so he might have had some encounter with the bear, but whether or not he was going mano-y-mano with Mother Cinnamon Bear is...
Yeah, the bear, like, rolls up its fur, and there's human arms under there. They're just, like, beating each other.
They do, like, the 1920s and 30s, like, little Bob cartoon animation and shit. Yeah. Ahead of their time, actually, some might say, if they do that.
Yeah. Or, like, the 90s, like, Tekken, or, like, a lot of those, they do that stance where they just, like, dance back and forth.
So this is the part where, like, some stories started to diverge. Like, one version that some people said was true is that they were just kind of set up in camp and the bear just beset itself upon them.
Oh, yeah. Which
but
seems more likely.
And the same, like, Hickok killed it with a knife, but he was still fucked up.
Yeah.
Well, still, like, pinned him down and shit, right? Like, that's what there was even, like, an illustration of it. Yeah. So it was a pretty intense...
Choose your own adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of the sites said they called him it was like Revenant Bill Hickok or something, because that Leo DiCaprio movie, but it's kind of a similar scene, He's pinned down and it's mauling him and shit, and then he just quickly, like, slits his throat. It's pretty fucked, man.
Speaking of fucking animals, though, I just, like, this popped into my head. I saw, like, a video of, like, because bears are fucking nasty. Not nasty as in gross, but nasty as in they'll fuck you up.
Yeah.
I was watching a video of, like, this gorilla playing with other apes at some zoo. And the way that fucking these animals move, man, you think like you see like a picture of them and you're like, oh well, you know, they're kind of cute, they're majestic or whatever.
Yeah.
But then you see them in action and it's like, holy fuck, dude. The gorilla is a big ass bitch and he's really muscular and he's like fucking slapping the shit out of these apes and then like booking it around. He's just, I was terrified just watching the video, man. I'm like, I never want to run into a gorilla, a bear. I just, you know, these animals.
You guys got to follow Nature is Metal on Instagram. There's a lot of crazy shit on there, man. Like, animals do not give a shit. Like, they just want to survive. They don't. There's nothing else. Like, they will destroy each other. Like, it's pretty wild.
And it's so funny that like, I often thought about this whenever, like in science class or whatever, we're like, yeah, humans are really great because our brain size is really big, and you know that's what allowed us to evolve, and you know we have all this technology, and I'm like, that's good, you know, but when push comes to shove and you're in the woods after the technology breaks, you're getting fucked by that bear, man.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know.
Well, and our infants are the most useless of like any mammal.
100%.
Some might even say they're useless, not even as infants. Toddlers, useless. I say get them back to the mines, you know.
Unless you put them to work.
25, 26-year-old.
That's true. Yeah.
All they do is podcast.
Tell you about cool guys like Hickok and shit.
You guys ever looked at shaved bears?
Oh yeah, they're terrifying.
Yeah, that's so creepy. They look like a fat jackal or something. They look scary.
And like, they're not like you see a muscular tiger and you can tell it's really fucking muscular.
Yeah.
But bears just look fat all the time.
Yeah.
But they're still super strong. It's so weird, man. It's like the way they look, their belly and shit. It's like, oh, they're fat. They're not. They can't catch me. Then they're like booking it like fucking 50 miles an hour or however fast they go.
Yeah.
You know. I don't think they're 50 miles. That's a pretty fast bear, but
That's pretty fast.
Fucking anyway.
I'm trying to find other shaved, like a shaved tiger, but it's not really out there. Anyway,
but
Bill.
yeah, he's getting some R&R. He's getting recouped back at base in the Nebraska territory, and the next major event in his life is several months after, where he's kind of healed up. He's back at it. He's basically doing like security detail for a guy that's working at one of the Pony Express stations. And then some guy named David McCannels comes in and he's like, "Hey, you owe me money, my dude."
Yeah.
To the guy that's operating the station. And a lot of what I found, it just kind of brushed over it. And Hickok eventually kills this David McCannels guy. And it's kind of like, well, maybe they shot first. They were being aggressive. They acted in self-defense. There's a lot of like squirmy shit about it.
I had a deeper story on it somewhere. It was like a gambling debt, and the guy like took his watch as like collateral, and he's like, "If I see you wearing that watch, I'm gonna shoot you." And he sees him the next day wearing the watch.
Quite a bit later.
Oh, that's a different thing? Okay,
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, what I have for this situation.
I get them all mixed up.
I know, I get it.
There's a lot of Wilder West was just built on debt, really.
Yeah, that's true. Well, hasn't
But
changed.
yeah, what I have for this situation is that McCannels originally owned the land that he then sold to the Pony Express.
Yeah.
And he was like paying them in installments, and they had missed one. At least that's what I have.
Okay.
And so then he
And
comes.
then, yeah, it kind of goes just like Logan said.
Yeah.
Collections companies, man. Fuck.
I don't. He was tried apparently, but then it's like, all right, you were acting in self-defense, and it's just so funny to me to think back to. I mean, this wasn't like a terribly long time ago, 150-ish years.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, like if you shot, the self-defense is so rarely like successfully used, I think, in modern times when you kill somebody. And it's just so funny to me be like, how often it just passed back then. It's like,
Yeah.
you kind of obviously killed this guy in cold blood, but it was self-defense, man, you know?
Well, I mean, if you want like another sign of the times, the source I had says that McCannell's son was with him, and he didn't get gunned down. But when he went to trial, he couldn't testify because of his age. I think he was like 12 or something at the time. They're just like, yeah, dude, you're a kid. We just get the fuck out of here.
See, kids, untrustworthy, useless. We hate the kids. But I found this kind of actually funny. He apparently felt regret about it, and he went to the widow and was like, "Here's $35. It's all I have. Here you go. Here's $35."
Oh, I wasn't aware of that.
It's what Wikipedia says. A lot of these Wikipedia sources are kind of
yeah.
But
well, I mean, to be fair, this whole legend of Wild Bill,
yeah.
Most of it is speculation.
That's true. I just think it's funny that $35. That's probably a lot of for just some 18-year-old, 19-year-old at the time, but. I just find it funny that you're like, here's $35.
It's about $1,000 in today's money, is what it said.
Still, I mean, even then, going to the widow, I was like, here's $1,000. Sorry,
we're good
drove.
now, right?
I ran over your husband. Hopefully, you can forgive me. I don't know, but
see, I guess I'm a bad person because that just makes me think of the drive-through thing where they're like, "Oh, they paid for your meal," and I'd be like, "Cool, man." I wouldn't does that mean I have to? No, I'd just be like, "Oh, it's free." Sweet.
I thought about it. I really did.
Hope someone else picks this up again.
Yeah, I'm like, that was nice.
I thought I would be safe because I didn't see anybody behind me. I'm like, "Oh, is there anybody behind me?" Like, "Oh shit, nobody's behind me. Sorry, man. Gotta drive off." And then somebody pulled them. I'm like, "Fuck,
that's
I can't back out
$1,000. Yeah, I mean, I with all of this shit, I'm just like, I don't know, man. We both wanted to shoot each other. One guy was going to die. I guess it was him. Let's keep going.
Find another husband.
Yeah, well, I just mean, could have been me. Could have been Bill. So it's kind of well, count your blessings.
I think in a way, that kind of same mentality got into his mentality, because a lot of what the Hickok story comes from is an 1867 interview he did with a magazine, Harper's Weekly. And I was trying to read it, man. I fell asleep while I was doing it.
Yeah,
just because I was sleepy, not because it was boring. It was actually pretty interesting, but it was actually kind of homoerotic at the beginning. Ooh. I must say. It was it's by some dude, and he's describing how Wild Bill looks as he's walking up to him from the road. He's like his wide chest, those lungs have taken in the Rocky Mountain air for a long time. He's got this broad chest, and he's got these sloped legs, and it's wow, jeez, wow.
Kind of changes the meaning of Wild Bill. It's woo.
Wow.
Take him for a ride,
He had those long flowing locks. He liked to get his hair pulled a little bit.
Yeah.
He tug on his mustache.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Nice.
Oh wow.
I like it.
But I forgot my point. A lot of it is up to a lot of the Wild Bill legend comes from this article, and a lot of it was Hickok exaggerating what he'd done, and he's like, I killed over 100 people.
Oh yeah.
And he's kind of leaning into it's kill or be killed, that kind of mentality, and he's building up a persona that you don't want to fuck with him. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't know, but
it's self-perpetuating, once people believe that, then they fuck with you less, but then it also led to him being more paranoid of people wanting to attack him and shit. So it's kind of a double-edged sword, Yeah, there was something that's probably way later on, but when he's playing poker at the saloons and shit, he always sat in the corner of the room. He didn't want anyone behind his back or anything, because he was paranoid. So it's funny how the internal dialogue is kind of different than how people saw him in a way. I don't know. It's like a self-defense thing in a way.
Yeah. We are animals, and like you said, animals just want to survive, you know?
Yeah.
We use our brains rather than our might.
Yeah.
So...
he was trying to do both, which he did. I mean, he had a lot of...
He did have a big white chest.
Yeah.
Long arms and muscles.
Those big thighs as he walked towards me.
Oh, my God. Maybe if I find it, I can read it. But you guys have anything on his Civil War service while I try to find this excerpt that I'm talking about, this homoerotic excerpt?
Mine's a little more just quick highlight things, I guess. Nothing too intense, but he enlisted in the Union Army during the Civil War, in which he reconvened with Jim Lane and Buffalo Bill Cody.
Cody's a good last name, by the way. I love it.
I agree.
He was listed as William Hickok at the time, so he's like fully leaned into Bill.
Yeah. Oh, see, this is where I got him going by William Haycock at this point.
Oh, Haycock. Yeah, see, okay. Oh, yeah, I see that too.
Yep. Like we already established, it's just all over the place. And then the man presenting this information in the biography I watched had a theory. I don't know if it was based off of anything, but maybe he chose the name William just to have another reason to go by Bill because he hated being called Doug Bill.
I wrote that he was a bad scout because he acted as a scout for General Nathaniel Lyon, the first Union general to die in the wars. Like he was supposed to like be the lookout, and then he was the first guy to die. So it wasn't too great at the time. He was still learning to be a scout.
Yeah. The general's cursing his name as he breathes his last breath.
Damn you, Bill.
I found this little excerpt. It's a little long, but I think it'll be worth it. So, let me at once describe the personal appearance of the famous scout of the plains, William Hickok, called Wild Bill, who now advanced towards me, fixing his clear gray eyes on mine in a quick, interrogative way, as if to take my measure. The result seemed favorable, for he held forth a small, muscular hand in a frank, open manner. As I looked at him, I thought his the handsomest physique I had ever seen. In its exquisite manly proportion, it recalled the antique. It was a figure Ward would delight to model as a companion to his Indian. Bill stood 6 feet and an inch in his bright yellow moccasins. A deerskin shirt, or frock it might be called, hung jauntily over his shoulders and revealed the chest whose breadth and depth were remarkable. The lungs that had growth in some 20 years of the free air of the Rocky Mountains. His small, round waist was girthed by a belt by which held 2 Navy Colt revolvers. His legs sloped gradually from the compact thigh to the feet, which were small and turned inward as he walked. Wow. There was a singular grace and dignity of carriage about that figure which would have called your attention, meet it where you would. The head which crowned it was now covered by a large sombrero. Underneath, man, I'm talking like a fucking idiot. Sombrero. Underneath which there shone out a quiet, manly face, so gentle in its expression as he greets you as utterly to belie the history of its own... No. See, this is one of those dash, then it's the same word. History of its owner. Yet it is not a face to be trifled with. The lips thin and sensitive, the jaw not too square, the cheekbones slightly prominent. Damn. A mass of fine dark hair falls below the neck to the shoulders. The eyes, now that you are in friendly intercourse, are as gentle as a woman's.
Wow,
yeah, dude. It goes into... it could go even longer, I just want to say. The man may have been closeted, I'm just going to say.
I mean, like... Wild Bill, he does have kind of every person at this time looks kind of like weathered or whatever, but he does have kind of like a soft complexion. Like I'm looking at him and he has those pouty lips, and there is something about him that's a little like softer than you might imagine, you know, like not in a bad way. I mean, he looks tough, but he has that like mysterious loneliness in his eyes where you're like, there's something about that Bill, like I just wish I could find out like what he's thinking about.
Oh my god, dude! So you're on the side of this journalist here, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I was thinking too that maybe there's something to that where his status kind of like deified him, like they kind of made him seem more than he was, like he saw him through this lens of like, oh shit, there's Bill, like,
Yeah.
so he kind of is like building him up in his mind as this like ultimate man figure. But
I'm sure that probably, yeah.
And he's tall, that's always a thing. Tall guys always like, they just have more status. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you literally have to look up at them, so I guess maybe that's part of it.
Yeah. The whole expression, like, dark, tall, and handsome, man.
Yeah, he had it all.
My grandma would always say that to me, and I'd be like, you're such a liar. It's one of those things where, your grandma's trying to be nice and compliment you, and you're just like, you're so wrong. You're so wrong. But thank you.
Don't lie to me.
Exactly.
It's better than calling you a cherub and pinching your cheeks.
That sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Grandmas, man.
Sweet little boy. Oh, you're such a good boy. Little angel.
The angel.
Yeah.
That's
anyway.
that's for like children.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't like that.
I don't either. I was talking to Ryan about it. I keep bringing him up, but just because our rooms are right next to each other, I guess. But we both agree that we hated being called Bud for like the longest time.
Me too.
It just reminds you of being this little kid. Like it's kind of like demeaning. Like,
Yeah.
oh, hello, sir. What will you be having? And what about you, Bud? Like, you're just like, fuck off.
Yeah.
I know for a fact I've called all of you Bud.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
Yeah, I've grown on it quite a bit. Like I like it now when like the gas station guy that I see every few days calls me Bud. I'm like, okay, we're becoming pals, But for a while, it really rubbed me raw, man. Did not like it.
I still don't care for it. I'll use it, but
But
to younger kids.
Yeah, and I usually use it if I'm like pissed in traffic or something. Like, okay, Bud.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck, So I don't know. It is tricky. I don't really call people Bud at all.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But I don't even know how we got there. Sorry.
Just my kids. My kid. Wow.
My kids.
I don't have kids. I have a kid.
That's foreshadowing.
Yeah. Oh no. I really don't want it to be. Okay. Well, so yeah, he served in the Civil War. He was doing more like travel shit. He was a wagon master.
Yeah, yeah.
There's some speculation that he was a spy, but I have my questions about that.
Well, he got discharged, right?
Yeah, just for an unknown reason, they say.
Yeah, that's so weird. What do you think happened? Was it a sexual encounter with another man?
No, don't ask, don't tell policy back then. It was
Could have been something.
Yeah.
They're like, look, we're not going to say anything, but you got to get out of the public eye a little bit. Like, you can be a spy or a detective. Like,
That's so funny. Or maybe he was having a love affair with a Confederate soldier, and it was like Romeo and Juliet, but real like we know who the bad side is.
could have been.
Yeah.
Could have been.
What do you think the Confederate soldier's name is? Horace. We're gonna say.
Horace.
Well, who's the Robert E. Lee? Or
Yeah, him and Robert E. Lee just Frenching in the back.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Is it Robert? I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah,
I think
E.
so.
Lee, I would think.
Anyway.
So after the war, though, he becomes he kind of loses his way. It sounded like a little bit, where he just becomes like a wandering gambler. And this is where the watch thing. So if you want to tell that story, Josh, you can.
Oh, well, you guys can. I kind of already blew it. I don't know.
But he's basically gambling with somebody in Springfield, not Springfield, Illinois, Springfield, Missouri.
Yeah.
He's gambling with a guy named Davis Tutt. They had been friends for a while, but apparently they had mutual affection for the same woman, and that was kind of always a frictionless kind of thing going on, wasn't it, Eloy? Hickok also lost a gold watch to Tutt in a poker game.
Yeah, okay.
And so And Hickok is like, listen, man, I'm going to give this to you, but it means a lot to me, so if you could not wear this in public, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's like a symbolic gesture, like, we'll settle this, but that thing really matters to me, like.
Real quick, this is another point where our sources divulge. Mine, he still ends up with the watch, but in this, Tut was claiming an old debt of like $35 or something like that, which Bill paid him, and then he claimed, oh, and remember that other time. And Tut just happened to have more of his friends, goons, whatever around, so he claimed he forcefully took the pocket watch as collateral.
Yeah, I remember actually reading that too, yeah. That's right. That might... I don't know. I can see both of these being likely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a he said, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They initially agreed not to fight, but, Tut eventually wore it, and then Hickok, as is a common thread through his life, is like, man, don't be doing that shit.
I told you.
Don't scorn me, man. And so this is where the Wild West, like, shootout in the middle of the street, that kind of shit comes.
One of the first recorded quick draw duels in history.
Exactly.
Yeah, man.
Apparently, Tut shot first, but missed. And then Hickok shot him in the heart.
Damn.
According to the article that's the homoerotic article, Hickok says that Tut called out, "Boys, I'm killed," before he collapsed and died. And so I just have this image where he gets shot in the heart, and it's like a soap opera where he's like, "Ugh, boys, I'm killed," and he drops dead, and it's like, oh. And then Hickok does a little spinny with his guns, blows the smoke off, and it's like, tips his hat, and then goes back to gambling. That's how I have this little this little image in my head. But
I read something about how he kept his revolvers like butt out, like handle out, and he had some special like draw move. I don't know how it works exactly. Like,
yeah,
I guess maybe you kind of grab it and like flick the wrist out or something. But he was kind of stylish with it. I can't remember what it was called. I could probably find it while we're talking, but. Yeah, let me see.
I had a little... They were reportedly standing about 75 yards apart, which seems like a bit much to me. But regardless, they were saying that revolvers tended to lose accuracy like a couple... Like if they were 75, they said revolvers lost accuracy at about 25. So
yeah, no shit.
Those measurements seem a little off to me, but it goes to show how proficient Bill was with the gun.
True.
Or how much of an exaggerator he was.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Maybe they were like...
I think this report was probably from Harper's Weekly, which really exaggerated a lot of things. So.
Yeah. But I guess 2 days later, he was arrested for it as a murder charge, but it was reduced to manslaughter eventually. Apparently the judge was like, you can't like do self-defense if he could have avoided the fight, but if there was a real threat of danger, then the fair fight rules apply. And I vaguely remember hearing about like fair fight rules still being a thing in some place, and so some dude like challenged his like ex-wife to a duel over the kids.
Oh, damn.
Like over the like the law of fair fights because it hadn't been written out of the law or whatever. I remember that kind of being a story a few months ago, but
that's crazy.
Just imagine, dude.
Mutual combat. I'm gonna look into that a little bit. That's interesting shit.
Yeah, the fair fight something, but so after he kills Davis Tutt, he kind of moves on again, I think, and he goes back to Kansas, and he becomes a deputy U.S. field marshal. God damn it, these damn fucking. Sorry, guys.
You all right there?
It's just reminders that I have on my phone that are synced with my computer. But he becomes a field marshal, a deputy field marshal. He's helping George Custer of infamous repute, and he's out killing Indians and all that stuff in the Indian Wars. There's a little bit. Well, do you have anything with him being a field marshal with Custer, Eloy, or Josh?
I
don't think so.
don't know why I didn't take down the quote, but there's a quote that he gave. I believe, I don't know if it was in that Harper's Weekly interview, but it was about his time with Custer, and he just goes off about how much he just respected this man and how great he was.
Respected or
Respected.
Okay. Yeah, I remember Custer goes out like a bitch, but I don't remember the details of it. But I know Custer is like a big laughing stock of history. But
I don't know anything about him. There was the Custer's 7th Cavalry, I guess, but I don't.
yeah,
Don't know
Custer's
about
Last
that.
Stand. Let's see if I can. I know that's what the event was basically called. Let's see if I can find a quick little.
yeah. But apparently, people are saying that Hickok may have really not liked the Indians, and some people speculate that that's because he needed to build up again the kind of persona around him, because as an effective while he's fighting in the Indian Wars, he needs to build up that kind of reputation.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't put it past him. I feel like, American Indian hatred was probably pretty common back then.
Well, I don't know if this is before or after, but he was attacked by a Cheyenne war party and injured. So maybe he kind of had a resentment because of that, like, damn Indians, like, type of thing.
No, I don't know. I didn't read that. I don't.
In 1868, and he returned to Troy Hills to recover from the wound. So it kind of took him out of the game a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, he got wounded by some Cheyenne
Yeah.
natives. And so that's probably part of it. I don't know. Maybe it was already existing. Because, yeah, that was definitely a common...
Yeah.
Kind of like the Shanghai Bill thing. Like, it was just like a thing that people threw around, so...
Yeah.
I don't know.
Racism was not uncommon.
Yeah.
So, but to be fair, there was a lot of armed conflict, and whether or not, you're on the side of the American Indians or not,
Yeah.
there was still bloodshed, and it's kind of like how after any war that people fight, a lot of the soldiers come back and they have like a really deep hatred for whoever was on the opposite side.
It's understandable. I mean,
yeah,
it caused you pain and...
You see terrible shit.
Yeah, and it's an easy... I don't know. I maybe I shouldn't talk about that, actually.
Yeah.
I see people driving that get me pissed, and then I say things, and I regret it, but then it kind of builds with time. So it's understandable. That's all I'm saying. When you have a very limited point of reference, it's easy to just kind of keep building on that without a whole lot of other reference. Interaction, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. I get it, for sure.
Talking about old people.
Yeah.
I don't like
Fuck,
them.
man, I don't like
They
old
gotta go.
people. I don't like the kids. I don't, anybody between the ages of 20 and 30, I'm okay with. Everybody else can go, I'll say. I was going to say kill themselves,
kick
but then.
rocks.
Yeah. Listen, man, we're talking about an old gunfighter, Kill is on the mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you have anything with Custer, Eloy, before we move on real fast?
On quick glance, I'm sure there's a little more to it, but basically he kind of went AWOL and went on more of like a frontal assault, and he split up his forces into like 3 distinct little battalions, and he was leading one of them, and the other 2 leaders, when they heard gunfire coming from his location, they just didn't help him. I don't know for what reason, but because they were so outnumbered and outgunned by the Indians, his men just panicked, and they started getting off their horses and running away and just throwing down their arms. So that's probably what really led to the negative reputation is that he just let them in and they just gave up. Like
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember it being something about just the total, like, the fear or something, like, really.
This line right here sums it up pretty well. It's possible Custer believed reinforcements were on the way and wanted to strike before the Indians dispersed. So he just kind of went for it without actually having the men there to even put up a fight.
Okay.
Well, yeah, Custer's a bitch. Anyways,
Yeah.
that's all I know. Just kidding. I don't know. I think there was like some sketchy shit where he could have let the Indians disperse or whatever, but he decided to attack because he hated the Indians and
Yeah.
I don't know. That's a different topic.
There's a lot about the Indians maybe like stripping him, like his body, and or mutilating him or all this stuff, but it's up for debate.
Scalping is like really hardcore. I'm just realizing. Yeah. I'm not realizing that, but it's pretty hardcore to scalp people. Wow.
Dude, that would be a fun episode, is different like torture methods and shit, because all throughout time and cultures, and we've come up with all kinds of crazy shit. Like,
we can get somebody in the BDSM community to come in.
There you go.
Dude, for way too long, I thought the M in BDSM stood for mutilation. That's not the case, kids.
Yeah, that's a step far, I think, but there's definitely videos for that out there.
Yeah, for sure. But BDSM does not include mutilation, for those wondering. But anyways.
Isn't the SM like sadomasochism? Like it's like
so.
one... It's kind of weird. Or something like that.
Bondage.
Domination.
Sadomasochism.
I think. I could be wrong.
Yeah. I don't know. But
anyway.
So he after his little excursion with like Custer and being a field marshal, he goes to Kansas, where most of what he's known for happens is in Kansas. But he's here for a good while now. He works as a scout again, hunting more Indians. I guess, I don't know if hunting is the right word, but that's what it seems. He becomes Marshal of Hays, Kansas. He becomes sheriff, basically. And
this is reportedly in 1869, so he's what, like 30 at this point? 30-something?
Yes. 69, 32. He's 32, yeah.
Yeah.
So he's at age 32, he's the sheriff of Hays, Kansas. This is like a really big place for, outlaws and just general fuckery. So he becomes sheriff of this town. He actually wins election in a special election after 3 other sheriffs had quit in 18 months.
Yeah.
So that gives you an idea of how fucking wild this town was. The sheriffs were just like, yeah, I quit.
Yeah.
But he comes in, he's ruling this bitch with an iron fist.
Nice.
So one of the first, this is kind of like, depending on how you view this part of his life, is whether you view him as a bad person or a good person, kind of. It's kind of the make or break moment for him.
Yeah.
But basically, he goes to, there's this guy that's going around town. He's drunk. He's shooting out mirrors. He's shooting whiskey bottles behind bars. He's having a good time. Yay, yippee-ki-yay. And all this stuff. And Hickok is like, all right, well, I got to go settle this. And eventually the guy doesn't like Hickok because Hickok is, like I said, he's ruling the town with an iron fist. And so the guy points his rifle at Hickok. But Wikipedia has the events going like this. The guy points at him, his rifle at Hickok, and Hickok's like, hey. He looks like beyond him and says, don't shoot him in the back, he's drunk, that won't be fair. And so then the guy turns around and is like, what the fuck? And then what does Hickok do? Shoots him in the temple while his head's turned.
Yeah.
So that's pretty... I like it. I like that trickery.
I like
kind
that
of,
a lot.
I like
Yeah,
that
it's pretty
trickery
cool.
shit. But
That's the classic. Hey, look over there.
yeah, it is.
Maybe the first recorded. We never know.
Yeah, the first recorded standoff and the first look over there. You know, this guy's a.
There's something behind you. Huh?
Do you have a different way of events, Eloy, for that one?
So what I have here is, we could be a little mixed up. I have that he was marshal of 2 cities in Kansas, Hays, Kansas at first
Yeah.
in 1869. That was more of a quaint town. I do believe this happened there.
Yeah, these happen in Hays. Yeah.
And then the wild town was more Abilene, Kansas, but that's really it.
Okay. Well, the second killing, apparently, as sheriff of Hays or whatever, was Samuel Strahan. And this guy, too, was being a disturbance at 1 a.m., so I imagine Hickok's rolling out of bed after somebody comes and gets him. Him and Lanahan, his deputy, they're both like, ugh, Jesus. They roll out of bed. Strahan.
Michael Strahan.
Yeah, Michael Strahan, yeah. But Strahan has made remarks against Hickok, and Hickok just shot him in the head.
Yeah, you look like a fucking duck, you dipshit. Yeah. Who do you think you are?
Exactly. I think it's literally he has a small ego, and it's kind of like you don't damage it, otherwise you get fucked.
Exactly. Look at you lanky. He's just like, he gets all pissed.
You and your wide chest.
Yeah. I read that story calling y'all sexy. That guy was clearly drunk because he looked like a doof to me. I don't know why this is a New Yorker. That's where I always go. Those are the remarks.
Those are the remarks from one Samuel Strahan.
Yeah.
The third killing apparently was Hickok is attacked by 2 troopers from the 7th U.S. Cavalry, and then one of them pins Hickok to the ground and tries to shoot him in the head, but his gun misfires.
Yeah.
And then Hickok shoots him. And
craziness.
Just is like, yeah, okay, well, that's that. And then the next line is Hickok lost his re-election bid to his deputy. There's no thing about how, maybe he went to trial for killing troopers of the U.S. Cavalry. It just kind of moves on to, he lost his re-election. It's like, all right, cool, I guess. By the way, he lost his election to his deputy, and his deputy is like, yeah, it's okay if you're just sheriff. Like the deputy is such a little bitch. Like, he runs against him, and then he wins. And then Hickok's like, "Hey, man, I'm already sheriff. You're already deputy. Why do we got to change this?" He's like, "Yeah, okay, that's fine.
That's fine.
Yeah, okay,
You're right."
It's so funny to me.
Yeah.
You would just switch badges? I don't know.
Oh my god. But then he becomes Marshal of Abilene, which is kind of, where the big stories come from.
Yeah.
So he becomes Marshal here, and there's this outlaw named John Hardin that comes here, but he's under the pseudonym Wesley Clemens.
Real quick, before we get into this, did you get a little snippet about a bar fight with 2 men dying?
That's the 2 U.S. Cavalry thing, I think.
Oh, was it?
Okay. I don't know. What do you have? Yeah.
I have this as being after he had moved on to Abilene, and it says, after a bar fight where 2 men died, they printed an article with a quote saying, "There is no use in trying to override Wild Bill the Marshal. His arrangements for policing the city are complete, and attempts to kill police officers or in any way create disturbance must result in loss of life on the part of violators of the law." So it's really just kind of saying, yeah, his word is law, which really, it doesn't have to be Abilene. It fits either town.
Yeah. I appreciate that kind of, hard stance law enforcement,
If I read that article, I'd be like, dude, I'm never fucking going there. Let's piss this guy off.
Exactly, man. I think that's kind of why he quelled the rough nature of these towns. It's because people didn't want to fuck with him and die.
But you know who did fuck with him? Harden.
He's apparently actually pretty ruthless. He's known to have killed more than 27 men, apparently.
Damn.
Yeah, that's the number people actually believed him to be. But he was going around proclaiming over 40.
Yeah, but I mean, usually when you hear people saying like, "Yeah, I killed over 100 men," it's like, "Yeah, you killed like 6 or 7."
Yeah.
Yeah.
This guy's like now 27 for sure. Wow. But you were speaking of how Hickok holds his revolvers weird, and there's like a finesse to how he like pulls them out or whatever.
Yeah.
Apparently, how Wikipedia has it here is Harden, this outlaw, this guy who's killed 27 men, befriends Hickok under his fake name, and he's like, "Yeah, let me show you this trick," where it's like if you're surrendering your gun, you know, you do it butt first.
Yeah.
Right? You hand it to them like that. Apparently, there's a way where like if you put your index finger, is this your pointer finger in the
little loop.
The loop, what is it called?
Around the trigger.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
But if you do that, there's like a way you can like flip it around really quick and like shoot them.
Oh, nice.
And I was looking up the technique, and it's like, this is basically reserved for people that are really stupid or really overconfident. Like anybody who's worth their salt in these times would be like, "What are you doing with your finger on that trigger?"
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But apparently Harden showed this move to Hickok, and Hickok's like, "Wow, that's really cool. We can become buds." Buds. And then they became buds, and
Buddy, this is where the Jeff Bridges thing comes in. Just kidding, it doesn't. That's the only word I can say as Jeff Bridges.
try another one.
Buddy, hey man, I'm gonna shoot you, bud. Yeah. Got
I like
any
that one,
whiskey, man?
whiskey.
Some bourbon, straight from Kentucky.
Give me act like you're playing like a poker game or something.
Oh man,
I've got a royal flush.
I got twin eights and twin aces, man. Feeling pretty good about this hand.
Oh my god. I need to watch more Jeff Bridges shit, man.
Yeah,
He's funny.
You really just need to watch Big Lebowski if you want
that's true.
Yeah.
Josh's particular flavor of
Yeah, that's the Bridges. He's not always like that.
I know, but anytime I see him now, I think of that kind of voice.
Yeah, me too. My dad Lloyd, man, he played Wild Bill too, man. Oh shit, I peeked right there. He played Wild Bill too, man. And he drank a lot of Kahlua when he was knocking my mom up, man.
All right. That was good.
I'm sorry.
I love the delay, Eloy. That was perfect. All right. Hickok tries to arrest Harden at some point, I guess, for killing a man. So Harden is a man after my own heart in a way because he kills a man for snoring too loud in the room next door in the hotel.
I do love that.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of funny. There's a humor in that. It probably wasn't very humorous for the guy in that bed, but
Reading it now, it's epitome of like just hilariosity and just outlaw nature in and of itself.
Yeah, it's like those old like Looney Tunes cartoons where there's like a fly in their room and they'll just like shoot a bunch of holes in the wall trying to kill the bug. Like it's totally that, like Daffy Duck shit, where they just freak out, just and the bug's still flying around. Like, yeah, man,
that's just fucking disregard for firearm safety.
Yeah.
So while also the sheriff, he gets into a little fight with the owner of a bar named Phil Coe.
Yep.
One of the versions of the story is that Phil Coe and his business partner, they wanted to attract business. And so how do you attract a business to your saloon? You would draw a big ass bull with a big erect penis on the side of your establishment.
Hell yeah.
And then when people complain to the sheriff, and the sheriff asks you to, take it down, and you don't, and then the sheriff removes it anyways on his own accord, then you kind of hate the sheriff. And so then you get into a bit of a fight. But that's one version of how this boils up. Another one is that Philco Philco just hated Hickok because he was just bringing law to the town, and that was bad for business, kind of thing. Do you have another version of the story before we get into what happens, Eli?
I don't. Mine was just kind of, it's up in the air, is all they said, so.
Yeah, the one I'm looking at just says he had dealings with a saloon owner named Philco.
Yeah.
so, yeah.
I like the erect bull penis story the most.
Yeah, I like that. That's fun.
Or it's like, you're going to take down my erect bull penis? How dare you? And then you try to get him killed. You get a bunch of... You try to get Hardin to shoot Hickok, but Hardin's like, why don't you do it your damn self? And then you're like, fine, I'll just get a bunch of cowboys. The real cowboys. None of these fucking guys playing guitar in the middle of the high school hallway.
Yeah.
Not those kind of cowboys. The real deal. You get them drunk and pissed off enough, they'll go shoot him. Something will happen. But it turns out that Hickok is on the case, and he finds out, and he's like, hey, Co, what the fuck you doing? And he shoots Co. And then...
I'm trying to find a picture of the bullcock.
So after he shoots Co, though, Hickok is there. He's still got his blood rushing, and he hears or sees somebody out of the corner of his eye rushing up to him, and he turns around, shoots them really fast too. But oops! It's your deputy marshal, Mike Williams, and he dies too. And Hickok's kind of like, oh shit, maybe it's time to hang it up, I don't know if he actually said that, but everybody else said, yeah, it's time for you to hang it up.
Yeah, this says it led to his being relieved of his duties as marshal.
I also have Hickok was dismissed.
Yeah, we gotta let you go, Bill.
Yeah.
What you did was wrong.
It is worth saying at this time he was kind of losing his eyesight, which might have a big role in this. He was starting to be unhealthy. I mean, by the sound of it, he's fucked with bears. He's gotten hit by Indians. He's been shot.
Yeah. He's had quite a life.
Yeah, so
Son's been through the fucking ringer.
Yeah.
His health is probably not the best a good 40 years in or whatever. But so after he's relieved of his duties, he basically joins Buffalo Bill Cody, and he starts doing some acting, and he says he hates it.
I love that.
And so they're like, okay, well, if you're going to hate it, then get out of here. Apparently he shoots a spotlight when it focuses on him because he's like, fuck this.
Yeah, like he literally hated the spotlight.
Yeah.
As soon as it went on him, he just... And again, that's that Looney Tunes shit. Like, I don't like it, I'm going to shoot it. Like,
I love it,
Yeah, we just didn't know how to handle guns, man. Like,
yeah. We're not... lax with them enough, man. That's what I say. A gun for every hand is my motto. Please vote for me.
Really, the moral of the story is only shoot things or people when it's funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When they're
When
snoring.
it's going to be funny in 100+ years.
Yeah. What if that's a defense in court? It's like, I did it for the humor, and 100 years from now, you think you'll get off from it?
It's the Hickok approach,
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hard end.
The Hickok clause. Like, oh, you actually got away with it because it was funny.
They're just like, we'll pick this case up again in 10 years and we'll see how we feel about this situation.
Yeah. Does the joke hold up? Okay, you're still free. Still funny.
Yeah, you have you gotta get like your license renewed. Like, I gotta go make sure that killing I did back in 1990 is still good.
Exactly.
Still funny. So what do you do after your acting career fails? You get married.
You get married. When all else fails,
And all else fails.
you settle down.
Settle down. One version some people like to think he married Calamity Jane, which is a fucking badass name. I love that name.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
But there's no actual historical evidence for that.
There's a myth they have a love child too, but that's not verified at all.
Yeah.
Like, some lady just claimed like, "Oh, that was my dad," but they couldn't trace that at all. So
Yeah. It says here that Calamity Jane claimed in her autobiography that she married Hickok, but she had to divorce him. She had to divorce him so that he could marry Agnes Lake. But no records have been found to support her account, so it's a she said, he said again. But what is known is that Hickok marries a woman that's about 20 years older than him, named Agnes Thatcher Lake. Maybe about 10, 12 years, actually. It might not be that much. But she's a circus proprietor, which I think is funny. But he ends up leaving her a few months later to go search for gold in the Dakotas.
Yeah.
Which is, maybe not great, but, I mean, if she's a successful 50-year-old circus proprietor, he didn't need to stick around and support her, man. She's doing well with her circus. I don't know.
yeah, one website was like he put bros before hoes or something like that because he just dips out with some guy to go look for gold.
The Wikipedia article here says, shortly before Hickok's death, he apparently wrote a letter to his wife, which read in part, Agnes, darling, if such should be, we never meet again. While firing my last shot, I will gently breathe the name of my wife, Agnes. And with wishes, even for my enemies, I will make the plunge and try to swim to the other shore. So, if that's true, that's sweet.
Wow.
That is sweet.
He's a poet. They need to go back to the beginning and say he's a poet, too.
Yeah, I wrote down he was a poet right there. Have you guys looked her up, though? Agnes Thatcher Lake?
I haven't.
I haven't.
She, tastes were different back then.
She's homely.
Yeah, definitely homely. Well, and she looks markedly older than he does in any of these pictures. So.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it is what it is. Like, it's just funny because he was seen as this, like, dashing man, and then...
He's dating a real just pig,
I mean, she's plain. Homely is a good way to put it, for sure. She looks like a stern grandmother, so that's fine.
She was 50 years old, so...
Yeah.
Back in her
The
day,
actress
she
that
was...
plays her in the Plainsman, kind of cute though.
Yeah, oh, that is true. Yeah, she kind of looks like the Wizard of Oz girl a little bit.
Dorothy.
In the movie. Oh. Not the real but the real Agnes looks like an Agnes,
True.
It's that simple. Picture a woman named Agnes, and it's probably accurate. Like,
yeah, that's one of those names, along with like Bertha.
Yeah.
And
Bertha's a little
Hilda.
thicker than Agnes,
Helga, yeah.
Hilga, yeah, Hilga.
Yeah.
Helga, yeah.
Helga. She's got a wart. They always do.
Yeah. What is it? I'm trying to think. It's a lot of these like German names. I feel like
Yeah, true.
that is German, right? I hope that's German. So this. So one day, after not having a lot of success for hunting with gold, he's just gambling, he's getting drunk, he's arrested for vagrancy several times. And but one day he's at a saloon in Deadwood, South Dakota, when a seat at a poker table opens up, and he takes a seat, and he's playing, and there's a guy also there named Jack McCall who sits down, but he's losing everything, McCall is. And so Hickok says, hey man, back it up, come back when you can pay your debts, and here's some money for breakfast. McCall apparently says, all right, thanks, but he's not happy about it, and he's kind of insulted. And so the next day, like Josh was saying, Hickok usually sits with his back towards the wall, so he knows he can see what's going on in front of him and behind him, and well, not behind him, but he knows everything that's happening in the saloon. But this day, he could only find a seat with his back towards the door, and apparently McCall enters it, and he pulls out a pistol and he shoots him in the head and says, "Damn you, take that!" And Hickok is dead instantaneously. He's shot in the head. The bullet exits his left eyeball area.
Damn.
And it shoots another guy in the hand.
Wow.
At the table. So yeah, that's apparently when Hickok is shot, he's holding the dead man's hand, what's become known as the dead man's hand.
Yes.
Which is the pair of black aces and the pair of black eights. It's called the dead man's hand, apparently. But
crazy. I've heard of the dead man's hand, but I didn't know it came from Wild Bill.
Yeah. Well, it didn't come from him.
Well, yeah.
He's the dead man being referenced.
It was his hand, yeah.
Feel good about these aces and these eights, man. Boys, I am killed.
Oh my God.
Agnes.
Oh yeah, that's
I
what
have.
there's like yeah.
That's all of it right there, man.
It's at that moment that she breaks down and cries in the middle of her circus.
Yeah. Just as she's performing, a tear falls and she doesn't know why.
Yeah.
She gets a letter. I was going to say a call, but it's just, I guess, some... Yeah. Wait, what? This Morse code can't be right. Oh, God.
Fuck, man. What a simple time, you know.
Bill.
But apparently McCall is put on trial by a minors' court, a minors' jury, which isn't actually doesn't have any lawful sway, and he's acquitted in the minors' jury. But then the actual the government comes in and says, "Hey, that's not double jeopardy because that minors' jury actually doesn't count. So we're going to try you again," and then he gets sentenced to be executed by hanging.
Nice.
And that's exactly what he does. Is Jack McCall is hanged on March
Swings.
1st, 1877. What?
Said he swings.
He swings and misses.
Is that what
Sorry.
they call it? You swing, like when you're hanged? Oh,
I've heard.
I like that. I never heard that.
Apparently, the cemetery he was buried in was eventually moved, which I didn't know you could move cemeteries. But
Yeah, I read that. That's crazy.
apparently, when his body was exhumed, the noose was still around his neck, according to citation 74.
Damn, that's some disrespect. Right?
But there you go. There's the quick but not so quick story of Hickok.
Real quick, I was looking at the years, and he died at 39.
Wow.
I thought he at least made it into the 40s, but no. August 2nd, 1876, he died.
I don't know, man. Like I'm saying, it's cat years, man. You know?
Yeah, they lived a very, kind of like Steve-O, a very dense life, you know?
Yeah.
A lot in a short period of time. Like.
That's right. They're probably smoking opium. Is that what you did back then? Smoked opium?
Probably, yeah.
But, they're doing all that shit.
They moved Hickok's grave, too. Did you guys read that? It says on Factinate.com, as touching of a send-off as Hickok got in Deadwood, South Dakota, Calamity Jane convinced Charlie Utter to move Hickok's body in 1879. He was re-entered in Mount Moriah Cemetery and given a 10-foot square plot, surrounded by a cast-iron fence and with an American flag in the ground.
Wow.
And Potato Creek Johnny is buried right next to him. Another Wild West legend, apparently.
I was going to say, watch fucking him and McCall and just a few plots apart.
I know, they're probably all in the same spot because they're all legends. All their ghosts are pissed at each other.
They're arranged in a circle like the round table of the West.
Yeah. I was going to look up Potato Creek Johnny and accidentally just looked up potato. So that was kind of annoying. Oh, wow. You guys should look up Potato Creek Johnny real quick, just as kind of a... This is his burial mate. He's some kind of gold panner. He kind of looks like Santa a little bit.
That's a fucking prospector.
Yeah. I hope I look like
Johnny?
that. Yeah.
Wow. I love that beard.
I know. He looks like a nice guy.
He's smoking a pipe.
I like him.
Oh, is that a pipe? No, it's gold he's holding.
Oh, yeah.
It's funny.
Golden nugget. Anyway.
I know
they
there's
moved his
something
grave
amiss
as well.
about these first few pictures. No.
Yeah, I looked at like
going-
a... Oh, sorry, what?
I was going for something there, but I don't think you guys caught it, or it just wasn't funny.
I didn't hear it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm going down the Potato
I
Creek
said,
hole.
I said, look, there's something amiss about these first few pictures, but no,
A mish?
it was Amish joke.
Oh.
Wow.
Got him. There's gold in these parts. Something is amiss. Yeah, I like that. I'm sorry, Eli. That's a good one, you know?
Yeah. It was a shame that we missed it. You know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking over my notes. He inspired some different songs. Apparently Ace of Spades by Motorhead. I didn't verify that, though. I wanted to look at the lyrics, but I guess Bob Dylan has mentioned him. And there was another one, but so, you know, he's a part of the cultural zeitgeist in some sense. He's out there, old Wild Bill. And maybe like I was trying to find Wild Bill movie, and like all these things came up, and a lot of them don't even involve him. But I do feel like that term, like from him, has inspired a lot of other kind of like outlaw personalities, and they just kind of take on that same.
In films and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you're known as like a loose cannon, like you go by Wild Bill.
Yeah. Just, I think he is very, even though we might not have known him specifically, I think the persona that he left behind in history, we definitely all know.
Yeah.
Just based from any media or general, like, mental images of what the Wild West was. And so, even though we didn't know his name, we knew him, you know, we knew his soul. His
I went into this whole thing thinking he was just like an outlaw, but I didn't know he was more of a loose cannon lawman.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lawman aspect is pretty interesting because you'd think he's just kind of like a drifter or whatever, but he had a lot of like influence and kind of power in a sense. And
the line between lawman and like outlaw, I think, throughout most of history is actually pretty
it's true.
pretty grainy. A lot of the
true,
times,
yeah.
like police officers are doing really shady shit and shit.
Yeah.
Like they're beating up kids on the side of the street for fucking selling cigarettes and shit. I don't know.
Well, it is that like authority thing, you know, like like the line between fear and respect or something, where you're like, oh man, like we don't want to get on his bad side, so we're just gonna let him kind of slide into power, like something like that, I guess. Or I like maybe because it was very individualistic at the time, like it still kind of is in America in a lot of ways, but there's that mindset of like, oh man, like he's the pinnacle of like being free in some sense. Like he kind of thinks for himself. No one holds him down. Like,
Yeah.
it's that kind of mindset. And we still see that quite a bit. But
Yeah, for sure.
back then it was a lot more violent.
Yeah. I mean, it was violent, but I don't know, man. I have a hard time distinguishing between what's like rose-colored glasses and what's not. Like,
Yeah, true.
because a lot of these characteristics that you're outlining, I think, could only really come to shine through that kind of environment, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. So it was probably terrible to live at that time, but I want to be like Hickok.
Me too.
Trying to make a song, I don't know. There's a song that's like that, right?
I wanna be.
Sorry, I'm
I wanna
trying
be
to-
like Hickok. Yeah.
Buddy. Hey, man.
Okay. There it is.
All right, let's end it.
I guess this is the only seat in the saloon, and I never sit here, man. I normally don't trust it. But I'm feeling good about this game. I know I'm going to win. I'm going to get a good hand, man. Okay, let's see here. Oh, yeah. I'm feeling good about this one.
Bye-bye.
All right, thank you guys for sticking around for Vice of Life and this episode about James Butler Hickok. Well, this is pleasant music, and I'm just gonna listen to it for a while. Yeah. You see what we're doing here? We're just shooting the shit. It's like we're sitting in the 1800s.
Exactly.
With nothing to do.
We need the sound effect of shuffling cards and chatter in the background and glasses clinking. What'll it be, sir?
The whiskeys, please. I'm just ending it right there.
The beautiful people listening to this episode, thank you so much for doing so. If you liked what you just heard, you can follow us on Instagram or Twitter at Vice of Life Pod. You can send us personal email at viceoflifepodcast@gmail.com. You can listen to the episodes on YouTube at Vice of Life. And if you really, really, really liked it, you can go to Patreon, patreon.com/Vice of Life. Give us some money. We would love it. Leave us a review and subscribe wherever you're listening. Thank you.